I saw a dead fish on the pavement and thought, what did you expect? There's no water around here, stupid. Should have stayed where it was wet.
The rock and posh is a bit too bland, isn't it? Hip hop section.
Let's do a hip hop section.
I worked in H&V for just over 5 years, and it was back when H&V was the one that had back catalogue and Virgin was the one that just had the charts, essentially. So, and we had control over what we had. The Lakeside H&V had the best collection of Anticon and Def Jux and just obscure left field hip hop at that time. Anywhere in Essex. Essex wasn't particularly big on left field hip hop at that point, but we made it so. I live in a small town, so there was one record shop in Old Corringham, which was about a 30-minute walk, and I went there a couple of times. That was more like when I was into punk, and there'd be like a new Rancid album or something like that, or a new Green Day album, and I'd go there early to try and grab that.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, other than that, I'm near enough to London to nip in as well. But over the years, there's been record stores. I've always made sure I visited a record store when I was in Amsterdam or when I was in New York the first time, and all these places I was going as a teen or early 20s, just making sure I got to a record store.
Yeah, awesome, man. So what was the last record you bought?
It's a good question. It's a strong question. I've been getting a lot of back catalogue stuff. I like to have a minimum of 2 copies of Johnny Hartman and John Coltrane's album, which is just called Johnny Hartman and John Coltrane. It's my favourite album of all time.
Oh, really?
And it was discontinued for a long time. So when I was working in a record store, in fact, it was discontinued. You'd get the odd back catalogue CD turn up, but then they reissued it on vinyl. So I like to keep a copy of two of that in my collection.
Fantastic.
I've got a record label called Speech Development Records, and we put out Sage Francis, his last album, and because it's my label, I made sure it was on double gold vinyl. We put out D Dolan and made sure that was on double Midnight Blue vinyl. The King Blues album we did recently was on blood red vinyl. I mean, when I ordered it from the supplier, it didn't say blood red on the listing, but that's how it's advertised as, because the album was called Off With Their Heads, and it was about, and it had a picture of David Cameron's severed head on the front cover. So,
perfect.
Yeah, I've always been. When I signed my first record deal, we were adamant that all of our albums get released on vinyl, and all the stuff with me and Dan Lassac, all the singles get released on 7 as well.
Yeah,
and
perfect.
That's something that's died off a lot, and it was a hard one to hold our label to, because there's not a lot of money in it at times. Do you know what I mean? There is a rise in vinyl, but it's still quite niche when you're a smaller label and a smaller act. It's still expensive to make. So, but yeah, I've got everything I've ever released on vinyl in my studio.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear
happy about that.
As it should be.
Yeah.
If you had a record shop, what would you call it? And what would be the thing that would be in it that no one else has got in theirs? We've had swimming pools, chocolate fountains, hot tubs.
I like all of them. All liquid based I like. I like the fact that they're all combining liquid with materials that aren't great with being involved with liquid and humidity. There was actually years and years ago, I was still working in H&V and I was saving up and I wanted to quit to open a record store locally. And I went to like council run small business meetings and stuff like that explain how to run a small business, because me and my mate, I wanted to open a record store called Milk that sold milkshakes upstairs and was just like a milkshake. And again, this is like early 2000s, so it's before there was tons of cool milkshake bars. I wanted it to be milkshakes and just playing music upstairs and records downstairs, and in the evening all alcoholic milkshakes, because at that point I was drinking a lot of White Russian. So having it as this cool bar that happens to also have a great record collection. But I learned quite quickly it's far easier to add a bar or something like that to a record store than to open up a new business and have to stock. Because again, if you open a record store, you need a lot of stock, and not stuff that you're just going to sell and then you've got nothing on your shelves. That was turning out, as soon as we started to look into it, to be the massive investment of, right, you need to buy thousands and thousands of records.
Yeah, put your own collections in.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the bit that's kind of crippled it a little bit.
Yeah. Oh well, thanks very much for talking with us, and
thank you.
Really looking forward to the Q&A, and
I'm looking
down.
I've always heard good things about Rise, always spoken in the same breath as Banquet, and some of my favourite independent record stores. So
Fantastic.
pleased to be here.